Well, hello, Internet people. Um, Today I want to do something a little bit different. I was introduced by a friend of mine to a channel here on YouTube that does videos more or less talking about specific issues and different sides of the coin to do with different political or social or civil issues. So, today I want to talk about fake news. Fake news is something that the idea has been around for a long time. Um, Donald Trump, in particular, talks about fake news constantly, and there definitely is such a thing as fake news, but more often than not, it's it's generally not the way people perceive it in their minds to be. For example, let's say the New York Times puts out a story and they skew the data on, one of the sources they used for research, something that they cited or something in an article. Um, let's say that the people running uh, whatever research program, let's say that they skew the data because they're given corporate money by some entity to try to, I guess, sway the public's opinion in one way or another. Um, that doesn't mean we should automatically throw the entire article that had a faulty study where it was skewed one way. Uh, you know what I mean? The whole concept of fake news back in the years where I was in middle school, high school, early college, and all that stuff, and far further back than that, in our history, was never an attempt to say that just disregard anything to do with this completely. I mean, there's no. That's essentially what the conservatives and the Republican Party nowadays seem to be, especially Donald Trump, seem to be saying. Uh, their actual meaning seems like just forget all of that. Anything to do with that is fake news. It's all bullshit. But for example, we just got to look at Donald Trump's taxes, and even if some of that information is inaccurate, a lot of that information is still damning, and you cannot ignore that information. Um, but I mean, in any particular scenario with the news, you have to be critical of the sources that you're getting this stuff from. I mean, this is common knowledge by now. This is why I say I feel the need to talk about this, because it's not a new idea, but we need to have a new understanding of it because our understanding of fake news has become muddled, especially a lot of those on the right wing side of things right now in the country. And I get it. I understand to some degree uh, the Republican Party's desire to save face, because this administration has been a pretty colossal clusterfuck, to say the least. But um, I don't I don't know where to go from here besides doing what we can in the moment to try to bring each other closer together as a people, and give voices to everyone as best we can, instead of trying to limit that. But fake news, in all seriousness, is a thing that we have to readdress and reframe it a different way, because fake news is a real thing, but just because something has an element of falseness to it doesn't mean that there isn't an element of truth in there as well. I mean, we're at a point where you can tailor your feed on social media, which is something we interact with constantly. You can tailor your feed to show you exactly what you agree with, and the only thing, and listen, I do it myself. I can't place blame on, someone just for that. I understand. But it does serve to divide us even further, not to mention the targeted marketing campaigns and all of the issues with the tech industry's lack of regulation into our personal lives. But honestly, that segues pretty heavily into false news because of the abilities of these giant tech companies to control and disseminate information to the masses. I mean, there needs to be some degree of responsibility, and fact-checking needs to become a permanent fixture in all things that we do in relation to politics and governing this country. We need to have enough regulation and fact-checking to keep things from going off track as badly as they have in these past numerous years, honestly. Because that's the thing. This whole thing was going on before Trump. I mean, fake news helped George Bush to win an election in the year 2000. I mean, they, had news networks calling the victory for Bush, and things just kind of went with that. And then, of course, there's the Electoral College we have to look at. I mean, George Bush and Donald Trump both lost the popular vote and still ended up in the White House, so we've got to end gerrymandering. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of things I could divulge into, but essentially, the fake news issue is something we have to reframe, because if people just don't listen to the news ever for any reason, and I don't mean CNN, and I understand the internet is a dangerous place where you can find all kinds of good God, I mean, there's so many things you can find on the internet to prove or disprove whatever you want, but you really have to look into your sources that you're getting this from, and what are their motivations and intentions in conveying this message to you. But you certainly do not need to discount all news and anything you see in a news article. I mean, there are actual quotes. I mean, there are quotes and, damning evidence in a lot of these articles that just get thrown aside, especially by the Trump administration, because they love to talk about fake news. But like I said, they're putting a spin on it to be to Trump's advantage, to where anything that he wants or needs or deems necessary to be fake news, because it might damage him or his credibility or his connection with his base or his supporters. I mean, there just isn't a moral compass that's being used in a lot of these decisions on the right wing of things. And that's not to say that the Democrats are blameless by any means, but I definitely feel a lot more empathy and compassion coming from a lot of these Democratic candidates who are at least trying to understand. I'm getting off topic, but I just feel like there's a difference between trying to understand someone's pain and trying to make change come quickly so things don't remain in this tumultuous state and innocent people don't keep dying constantly and needlessly. I feel like logically anyone should be able to get on board with that, but we're also divided, and everyone's been told not to listen to the news, that everything is now a conspiracy. And conspiracy theories, I mean, there are conspiracies. Let's be honest. There are real conspiracies that have really occurred and are provable. But a lot of these things like QAnon and, I mean, even before QAnon, there was always groups of people within the conspiracy community who were damaging the credibility of the conspiracy community by spreading, let's be honest, bullshit. Just bullshit. So there's never been a lot of credibility with conspiracy theories, but some of them do have value, and you should never rule that out. You should always look at things with a critical eye, including the news, but that doesn't mean never listen to the news. You know what I mean? I mean, know thy enemy, right? So it's better to listen to both sides of the argument. A lot of people just focus on one side. I myself watched the Republican National Convention and the Democrat National Convention, just to see what everybody had to say, and no big surprises, let's be honest. But I think I've made my point about fake news. Really, I just think that we all need to be able to think more critically for ourselves, and the education system sure isn't doing a lot of us any favors there. But I appreciate my fellow Americans and neighbors across the world listening to me via the internet. Drop a like or subscribe if you want to hear anything else that I might have to say, or any videos that I put up in the future.